Hi, I'm Ryan from Off Track Tool Company, and today we'll be disassembling. This is an '05 TRX 450 engine. Looks like it has a 490 big bore kit, but the complaint is that it is stuck in fourth gear. So there's either something wrong with the shift mechanism itself. Otherwise, we're going to have to split the motor and start looking at the forks. So normally, everything's clean, prepped, ready to go. But normally what I do first is I make sure that my timing on my mag is on T, my first line there. And I've already prepped this real quick. And we're gonna also check, we have two timing marks over here. Those need to lay flat. And I roll the motor over a few times just to make sure that it is on top dead center on compression stroke. And we verified that it's not 180 out, anything else. The piston is at top dead, and I did watch my timing mark roll first. So this is in time, and we'll take a couple pictures so you know what that's supposed to look like. And another thing is, normally when I take something apart, I always put it top dead center in compression stroke because that's how it ends up back together. But we'll do a quick valve adjustment, and I already did this once, and I'll do a separate video to really show this, but I'm going to do a 4,000ths, and my 4,000ths on my intake has a machine drag on both of them, and my exhaust are both at 9,000ths. So the next thing that I do is I take my piece of paper, I do an intake, exhaust, and I write down everything that I find. So this is just a touch out of tolerance. I think the wide end is about 6,000ths on intake, and the wider end is about 10,000. So we're 1,000ths loose. That's still in tolerance. The 4,000ths we might actually go through and bump that up to about 6. And we're going to check the mechanism, but we'll go and do a couple quick little videos. I'll show you the couple timing marks and that machine is drag, and hopefully we can make a video pretty quick and on this whole setup. So let's go to the quick videos. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see that timing mark very good, but you can see the line and there's a little T. So that's our first timing mark. The second ones, again, there's two lines straight across the two cam lobes. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to adjust check the valves. So we're going to run a feeler gauge, and we already did this. We're running 4,000ths on one, 4,000ths on the second intake. Now we're going to check the two exhaust valves, and we can nice and easily drag a 9,000ths in her. And what I did was I just drew it on a piece of paper. We had 9,000ths on both exhausts and 4,000ths on both intakes. Okay, so we just checked our valves, everything else, and we are still after the fourth gear will not shift. So the next thing I'm going to do is pull the clutch, the whole assembly off, and we'll take a look at the mechanism. If it's still not in the mechanism, we're going to have to pull ahead and split the case. Okay, so we did the videos with all the cam stuff. So now we're going to pull the cover, we're going to check our counterbalance. So let's pull this cover off and take a look inside. Okay, so once we're top dead center in compression stroke, the other thing that we're going to look at is, and I'll do another video, but there's going to be 3 tick marks for this counterbalance. So we need to be able to put this back together. The next thing I'll do is I'll pull the clutch, and our shift mechanism is on the bottom. So I'll do a detailed video on that and see if I can get a picture of what we're actually after. Okay, now these 3 timing marks here, these ones here, these are the 3 that you need to line back up when everything else is top dead center. So the next thing that we do is we're going to pull the clutch, and our shift mechanism is back here, but we still can't see it because the clutch is in the way. So I'll pull that off real quick and we'll see what's behind there. Alright, so I'm going to pull this clutch bolt out. That was bent over, I already bent it down. And when this goes back in together, it goes like that. The shaft pushes out and actually moves this back and forth. That's what releases your clutch. There's a bunch of little bearings in here. Don't drop that. So we'll just put that in here. The other thing is, whenever I take a clutch apart, if you're going to reuse them, I band them and make sure that these don't get too far out, otherwise that will make your clutch shatter. The other thing that I noticed, and I'll do a close-up picture or video, but this also had a complaint where first to neutral to second gear was kind of dripping a little bit. When these get grooves in them, that's probably what's just making it a little bit harder to find neutral than you'd like. There's a washer in the back. And this clutch has a little bit of play in it. I'm going to figure out why. It's got a little slop in it. It's got a little bit of rocking back and forth. And this here is our shift mechanism. This is what we were hoping that there was something bound up in here, but it doesn't seem like that seems to be the problem. That is trying to function. And I'll pull it apart one step further and make sure that the mechanism works. Okay, we found some more stuff here. This has been impacted by something, and looking, it hit the case here pretty good. So something came apart and, I don't know, kind of loosened this mechanism a little bit. Another thing I'll show you is a lot of times your first, second gear when you're hard to get into neutral, see all these little wear marks? Those wear marks make those, your steels and your friction, they get caught in those grooves. And here's the basket. See all those grooves? That's what makes your transmission. It makes your clutch, when you pull your clutch lever in, those bind and get stuck and they drag really hard and makes your transmission, it makes it a little bit harder to shift. It like never really pulls the clutch in. So we were playing up and down with this mechanism, and it feels like the mechanism is working good. It's kind of hard to do one-handed, but I did it several times. I spun the output, or one of the input shafts, and the output shaft is turning, and I cannot get my gears to go more than, I don't know what gear it's in, but it's stuck in a gear. So this is looking like we're gonna have to split the case, so this is gonna get a lot more involved. Okay, so we pulled all the gears, everything's laid out on the bench. We took a bunch of pictures. We're gonna actually make a collage, and you'll be able to see how everything went back together. We got all the timing marks for all this stuff. We're spinning the transmission, found a bunch of metal, took the shift mechanism out, and there's all kinds of metal shavings inside of it, plus that other chip. So next thing we're gonna do, take the timing off of it, and we're gonna pull ahead. So we figured out that there's something definitely wrong inside the transmission. We play with the shift mechanism, and when I turn the input-output shafts, I can hear something. It sounds like the shift works must be bent and the dogs are just touching. So next thing that we're going to do to split the case is we're going to pull the whole top end off and split the case. So the first thing I did is I still have to pull the cam chain, and I have it chained up, and I just have to pull the bolt. I can even pull it around. And notice I have that chained, so I can just let that chain kind of fall, and it's not going to go anywhere. And those are a couple different lengths. And you got to be really careful. These like to drop the shims. And the shims stayed in their bucket, so they didn't fall out. My exhausts are still there. Okay, then I'm going to have to take this off and let my chain fall as I pull the head off. Pull it through. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is I'll mic this piston real quick, because we're probably going to rebuild this. It should be a 488 or a 490 big bore kit. So we're going to put new rings on it. And we can probably stop the video in just a little bit. And I'll just pull the rest of these side cover cases apart, and I'll start pulling the case apart. So pull the mic out, because this is supposed to have a 488 big bore kit. This has a 93.25 millimeter, and this is another stock 450. I think this one's out of a 04 or 05, and this is stock. So, but I do see that it's got a hot rod crank on it, and it does have a Moose Racing piston in it. So it definitely has been rebuilt, and the cylinder is in very good condition. But someone was fed the wrong information. This is not a 488 big bore kit. Okay, so the counterbalance comes out, and there was a clip on this. We already pulled that out, and we already pulled all of the hardware, so we're hoping that this just slides out. The last one I did, this is a non-press bearing, so this should just come apart. Okay, and that's it. We'll readjust the camera, and I'll start going through a few more things here, and we'll start looking for bent parts. So it's kind of hard to see, but right down in here, I can see that that fork is already bent. I'm not sure which gear that is or not, but it's kind of hard to see. So the next thing is going to be is your input output shaft and your spool shift fork. Everything comes out at once. So I'm going to have to put my camera down, and we'll get it on the bench, take a look at it. Okay, so the bearings all checked out good. And went through all these and looked at all the dogs on the gears. Everything is nice and square, nothing's rounded off. I went through them really good. But the culprit was with the funny shifts, where you can see how bad this is actually worn. That groove is not supposed to be in there. See how that other one is? So them two were the bad ones, and then there's one good one. So this transmission only needed 2 shift forks, and all the bearings are good. So we're gonna get some parts coming for it. So hopefully that's helpful to you, but that's how you disassemble a 450 engine. And we diagnosed a couple bad shift forks, and luckily this one doesn't need a bunch of bearings or anything. So I'm going to get some parts coming for it, some new gaskets, and in about a week or so we'll do the reassembly video.